This narrative unfolds at the Adelhart estate, commencing a pivotal meeting between our protagonist, Isabella Barnine, and Duke Cassian Adelhart. She acutely perceives his frigid, scrutinizing gaze, directed at her as though she were his arch-nemesis. Compounding this discomfort, she acknowledges the truth in his perception. Promptly after she sips her tea, he directly inquires about the purpose of her unannounced visit, implying its significance. Isabella inhales deeply before articulating her desire to dissolve their engagement. The Duke expresses surprise, but she asserts that neither party desires this union, and its termination would benefit them both. The narrative then reveals Isabella's transmigration into a novel from her previous life as Soun in South Korea, a week prior. Following a vehicular accident, her consciousness transferred, reincarnating as Isabella Barnine, a notoriously cruel individual who, after marrying Duke Cassian, subjected Lucius, the Duke's illegitimate son, to immense suffering. This cruelty stemmed from jealousy. Like Lucius, she too was of noble but illegitimate birth. However, unlike him, who received paternal affection, she endured constant mistreatment from the Barn family. She inflicted both physical and emotional pain on Lucius, believing he deserved a similar hell. Her malevolent actions eventually led to her expulsion from the Adelhart family, a life of destitution, and a lonely demise from illness in a monastery. Our protagonist, driven by a strong will to survive upon realizing her predicament, began devising a plan. She considered nurturing Lucius but deemed it impractical given the Duke's animosity and her reluctance to marry him. Thus, she concluded that annulment was the most viable option. This led her to the Adelhart estate, eager to execute her strategy. Returning to the opening scene, her brief encounter with Duke Cassian. After she states her wish to cancel the engagement, the Duke, perplexed, questions if this is her volition or her father's command. Isabella affirms her autonomy, revealing her father's unawareness of her intentions. At this, the Duke rises, declaring their discussion concluded. Undeterred, Isabella stands, grasping his hand to prevent his departure. He recoils, angered by her touch. Isabella then discloses her knowledge of the true reason for his betrothal. Count Barnine possesses a secret regarding the Duke, which he leveraged to compel Cassian into marriage. Enraged, Cassian questions her desire to end the engagement despite this revelation. Isabella calmly counters that she holds information the Duke desires and will ensure her father's silence in exchange for the annulment. Suspicious, Cassian probes the source of her knowledge. Unable to cite the novel, Isabella cryptically states she cannot divulge her methods but assures him of its exclusivity to her and her father. She awaits Cassian's response anxiously. After a period of contemplation, he agrees to consider her proposal and promises to contact her, requesting she depart for now. On her way to her carriage, Isabella encounters Lucius, the Duke's son. He bashfully invites her for afternoon tea. His accompanying maid prompts him for an introduction, but before he can, Isabella warmly greets him as young Master Adelhart. Lucius is visibly pleased that she recognizes him. Isabella formally introduces herself, contemplating his invitation. She understands that a successful engagement annulment would precede her divorce. Accepting his invitation, she fears, might foster hope of her becoming his stepmother. Politely, she declines, citing a prior engagement. Lucius, embarrassed, apologizes for his abrupt invitation. Isabella reassures him, reiterating her inability to join him. She then bids him farewell and departs. She recalls Lucius from the novel as a cold, calculating individual, mirroring his father, who ruthlessly eliminated adversaries. However, the Lucius she met today appeared as a gentle, sweet child. She remembers from the novel his childhood isolation amidst a power struggle. His designation as heir by Duke Cassian faced opposition, with many advocating for the Duke to await a legitimate heir before choosing. The Duke consistently defended Lucius, asserting his decision and threatening repercussions for dissent. Unbeknownst to him, this heightened the pressure on Lucius. Young ladies of the realm speculated about Lucius's maternal lineage, assuming a peasant origin due to the Duke's absence of his mother. They fancifully discussed their plans for the boy should they marry the Duke, considering sending him to a foreign academy or even a monastery. Amidst this tension, Lucius longed for a mother. Isabella returns to Count Barnes' estate, preoccupied with Lucius and concerned he might be distressed by her refusal. She reflects that had she been a different person, she might have cared for him. She then chides herself, refocusing on the urgency of ending the engagement for a better life. Upon entering the mansion, a blonde man, her younger brother Derek Barn, inquires about her whereabouts. Isabella, irritated by his presence, ignores him. Derek, noticing her silence, repeats his question. Isabella continues to disregard him, internally vexed by his incessant nagging. She contemplates Isabella from the novel, seeing her not as a villain but a victim. Her mother, a maid in the Barn household, caught the Count's eye due to her striking beauty, leading to Isabella's birth. Fearing for her daughter, her mother fled, eventually succumbing to illness. Desperate to ensure her daughter's well-being, she penned a plea to the Count. Upon learning of the maid's daughter, instead of assisting, he dispatched an assassin. However, upon seeing Isabella's resemblance to her mother, he saw an opportunity for a profitable marriage. He deceived her with promises of aid for her mother if she accompanied him and behaved. Compelled by the need to save her mother, Isabella joined the Count, living a life of subjugation. Derek harbored immense resentment towards the Count for this, directing his anger at Isabella. Isabella is jolted from her thoughts as Derek grabs her arm. Angrily, she attempts to break free, stating her fatigue and unwillingness to converse. Derek's grip tightens, fueling his irritation, believing her defiance stems from her engagement to Duke Del Hart, asserting that nothing has changed. Isabella escalates the confrontation, asserting her impending status as one of the Empire's 3 duchesses and his obligation to respect her. Enraged by this truth, Derek forcefully shoves Isabella, causing her to tumble down the stairs. Bella awakens the following day in her room, disoriented by her arrival. Her last memory is of falling. Her maid, Annie, enters, inquiring about her well-being and any pain. Bella responds sleepily, her entire body feeling sore. Annie, concerned, attributes the pain to Derek's actions and provides prescribed painkillers along with a letter bearing the Del Hart seal. Bella felt taken aback by the unforeseen correspondence. Could it be that the Duke had finalized his decision regarding the annulment of their betrothal? As it turned out, the letter was from Lucius. He explained that his tutor had instructed him on the proper etiquette for extending an invitation to afternoon tea, which involved a formal missive. Consequently, he was sending this letter to officially request her presence for afternoon tea. Unbeknownst to her, Bella's eyes welled with tears. In her previous existence, she had no recollections of her biological mother. Therefore, when her father remarried, having a stepmother felt like a dream realized. Her sole desire was for a happy family. However, one day, she inadvertently overheard her parents conversing through a gap in the door. Her stepmother was expecting a child, and with the imminent birth, she wished to send the protagonist to a boarding school, as managing 2 children would prove too arduous. Thus, her eyes filled with tears, stemming from her knowledge of the pain associated with rejection by loved ones. Bella penned a reply to Lucius and instructed her maid to deliver it with utmost haste. She leaned back in her chair, weary, contemplating how to confront Derek. Perhaps she should exact retribution upon him before severing ties with Cassian. She realized that even after the dissolution of their engagement, she would still need to devise a means of escaping her family, as she was certain the Count would arrange another suitor for her the moment their betrothal ended. To survive, she required both financial resources and intelligence. Donning a discreet cloak, she made her way to the Information Guild. Meanwhile, at the Duke's estate, Lucius was overjoyed to have received Lady Barnine's response. He unfurled the letter and commenced reading. Lady Barnine expressed her gratitude for the invitation, but regrettably stated that she had prior engagements and could not attend. Lucius was disheartened by the refusal and inquired of his maid whether Lady Barnine perhaps disliked him due to his illegitimacy. He feared this was the reason she sought to terminate their engagement. With a sweet and hopeful tone, he informed his maid that he believed he could persuade Lady Barnine to change her mind. The maid gently reassured him that he was a charming child and that Lady Barnine would surely recognize this. Perhaps she was simply genuinely occupied. Lucius then resolved to procure a gift for Isabella. Everyone appreciated receiving presents. It might uplift her spirits and prompt her to reconsider her decision. They both proceeded to the city. In the city center, the protagonist was navigating, seeking directions to the guild, when she heard a familiar voice. Turning towards the sound, she observed Lucius running excitedly, glancing back at his maid. This caused him to stumble over a stone and fall. Bella knew she ought to avoid further entanglement with Lucius, yet she could not disregard him. After all, she had been a devoted reader of the novel and was aware of Lucius's endearing nature. She approached him, inquiring if he was all right. Lucius expressed surprise at her presence. She advised him to return to the Del Hart estate to attend to the abrasions on his knees. He declined, stating that he had come to the city to purchase a gift for her. Bella was touched by the gesture, but reiterated that her health was paramount. Lucius seized the opportunity and invited her to join him for tea that day. Observing the resolute demeanor of young Lucius, Bella ultimately relented. Surrounded by an assortment of pastries and cookies, Bella inquired of Lucius the reason for his fervent desire for tea with her. Embarrassed, Lucius revealed that his intention was to formally propose that she become his stepmother. With a contrite expression, Bella stated that regrettably, she believed she could not fulfill that role. Lucius, cutting straight to the matter, asked if it was due to his illegitimacy. He had overheard the ladies in the garden discussing him. Bella began to explain that it was not for that reason. The door opened, and Duke Cassian, upon entering the tea room, was astonished to find Isabella there. He questioned why Isabella was alone with Lucius. Isabella comprehended Duke Cassian's reaction. After all, the reason a daughter born out of wedlock like herself was able to become engaged to such a prominent figure, and the reason her father, the Count, was able to coerce the Duke, was because Lucius was not, in fact, Cassian's son. Julia Adelhart, though her name had long been ostracized from the Adelhart estate, was the eldest daughter of the former Duke Adelhart and Cassian's elder sister. She was the sole individual who exhibited kindness and understanding towards Cassian during his tumultuous childhood under their father's harsh tutelage. She was the only true family Cassian possessed. As time progressed and the siblings matured, they embarked on separate paths, leading to their estrangement. Nevertheless, Cassian found solace, believing that this would allow his sister to escape their father's tyrannical influence. Unfortunately, the former Duke discovered Julia's pregnancy, and he subjected her to severe punishment for daring to bear a child without a paternal figure. When Cassian learned of this, he exerted all his efforts to shield his sister from their father's cruelty. Julia was perpetually deeply indebted to Cassian for his care and protection of her and her unborn child. Tragically, Julia succumbed during Lucius's birth. Cassian, striving to preserve his sister's legacy, aware that even in death she would face scorn for having a child out of wedlock, resolved to shoulder the burden as if it were his own, proclaiming Lucius to be his illegitimate son and heir apparent. Cassian believed all would remain well until a year prior, when Lucius suddenly fell gravely ill. A mark, a dark rune, appeared on Lucius's chest. It was then that Cassian discovered Lucius was not merely sick but afflicted by a hereditary curse. Cassian surmised the curse was linked to Lucius's biological father. The Duke initiated a search for Lucius's true father, but to no avail. He unearthed no information until one day, Count Barn approached him, claiming to know the truth about Lucius's parentage. Cassian attempted to feign indifference, dismissing the Count's assertions as utter fabrication, asserting his own paternity. Disclosing his knowledge, the Count revealed that he was aware of Lucius's mother being, in reality, Cassian's elder sister, Julia Adelhart. Clutching a folded piece of paper, the Count informed Cassian that inscribed on it was the name of Lucius's biological father, and that if he agreed to marry his daughter, Lady Isabella, he would not only furnish Cassian with the paper but also ensure the truth remained buried with him upon his demise. Returning from her reverie, Isabella recognized the validity of Cassian's reaction, as she, much like her father, had leveraged her knowledge to persuade the Duke. Lucius, sensing a shift towards a more severe tone in his father's voice, interjected that Isabella had done nothing wrong and that he was the one who had invited her for tea. Cassian, disregarding his son's plea, commanded him to retire to his chambers. Lucius hesitated, but Isabella reassured him, encouraging him to depart. After all, she genuinely needed to converse with Duke Cassian. As soon as Lucius departed, Cassian questioned why he had not been apprised of Isabella's presence on the estate. She explained that she had chanced upon Lucius in the city and accepted his invitation for tea. She stood and offered an apology to the Duke, as it appeared accepting Lucius's invitation had displeased him. As she rose, Cassian noticed purplish marks on Isabella's wrist. Instinctively, he grasped her hand, imploring her to pause. He inquired about the cause of her injuries and whether Count Barn was responsible for those marks. Embarrassed, Isabella clarified that it was not as he suspected, that their engagement was nearing dissolution and they would soon be strangers, thus Cassian need not concern himself with her. However, Cassian countered that he had never consented to ending their engagement, and it was evident that he was concerned about what might have transpired, that she remained his fiancée, and he possessed the right to be informed if any untoward events were occurring at the Barn estate. Relying solely on her interpretation of the novel, the protagonist disbelieved Cassian's pronouncements or his apparent concern. She requested that he release her. She stated that she had merely tripped and fallen down the stairs the previous night, but that it was inconsequential. Cassian, realizing Isabella was unwilling to divulge the truth, released her. At the mansion, after escorting Isabella to a carriage destined for her residence, he departed in irritation. He instructed Logan, his aide, to investigate the treatment Isabella received from her family. The marks on Isabella's wrist, Cassian surmised, were indicative of some form of abuse. The scene shifts to the protagonist in the carriage. She directed the coachman to drop her off on Courtney Street in the city, but he stated he had specific instructions from the Duke to convey her to the Barn mansion. With pleading eyes, Bella expressed her urgent need to attend to matters in the city and pledged not to reveal his actions if he were to oblige her. The coachman convinced, Bella reaches what she thinks is the Info Guild, a small city pub. She approaches the counter, taps the table twice. Tap tap, tap tap tap. A glass of Ascent, with lemon and ice, please, Bella orders. Ascent, a common imperial drink, becomes a password at this pub for a Sierra Guild audience, an Info Guild. The bartender questions Isabella's order, but she confidently affirms it. She knows the secret code from the novel. 13 years hence, post Cassian's demise, Lucius uncovers his parentage. Betrayed by Cassian, he seeks the Sierra Guild leader for info on Cassian's past, eventually befriending the guild master. This allows Bella to request an audience, trusting the guild leader. Bella knows guilds value information, and her reincarnation grants her vast, even juicy, knowledge, irresistible to Samuel, the guild leader. Isabella is escorted to a private room, asked to wait. Water is offered. A familiar scent, rakra, an expensive, calming herb, emanates from the man. Bella seizes his wrist. No need to wait, she smiles. A pleasure, Samuel, Sierra Guild leader. Samuel, curious, asks her identity. Bella explains his younger sister's delicate health, his frequent rakra use for her soothing, making it his signature scent. She adds his ring allows appearance change. Impressed, Samuel praises her cleverness, removes the ring, revealing his true platinum-haired, golden-eyed form. What do you want? He asks. Bella wishes to sell an item for money and find a doctor, Aranlna, red-haired, green-eyed, living city outskirts. She knows he'll create the cure for Samuel's sister. Samuel asks his return. Bella points to a pouch. Enough, she claims. She intends frequent guild use, thus a good relationship is key. She'll reveal how to heal his sister. Samuel is surprised. His sought a cure for 7 years since his sister's birth. Bella wonders if she can truly cure Arya. The novel's title is Arya of Light. Arya, Samuel's sister, is the protagonist. Fragile yet warm-hearted, Arya moves Lucius, jaded by Cassian's betrayal. Arya's divine power, disrupting her health, becomes the light freeing Lucius from his curse. Boil talon flowers in water, have your sister drink it. They grow in Sija, give strength, Bella instructs. Samuel cautiously asks why he should believe her. Bella states belief is his choice. Without proof of efficacy, he can't give requested info. Bella understands but highlights the doctor's discovery benefits him. She aims to forge an alliance by sponsoring Aaron, aiding Arya's cure. Samuel agrees, asking if she wants more. Bella smiles, yes. Her other request remains unknown. Early evening, Isabella returns to Barney Mansion, relieved no one noticed her absence. Her chambers reached, a maid informs her dinner is served. The family, Count, 2 sons, Countess, is gathered. The Count seems unusually observant. Noticing Isabella's stare, he asks why. Bella apologizes, lost in thought. During dinner, the Count finishes, calls his daughter. Isabella, I heard you visited Adele Hart yesterday. Why didn't you inform me? Bella, resisting lying, reveals she met the Duke to cancel their engagement. Her reason for not lying is unclear, perhaps explained later. The Count, initially disbelieving, questions her again. Smiling, she states she told the Duke of her lack of interest in marriage. Enraged, the Count strikes her, disgust in his eyes. Do not test my patience, Isabella. He storms out, declaring he'll speak to the Duke, the wedding proceeding. Mark my words, Isabella, lest you defy me again. Dereric seizes the moment to mock his sister. You must have lost your mind. Isabella, composing herself, slap mark visible, asks, Is that all you have to say? Confused, Dereric asks what she expects, an apology, concern? After all, she retorts, you pushed me down the stairs last night. Dereric scoffs, calling her recent behavior strange, telling her to shut up and disappear as before. Ignoring him, She asks if he feels no guilt. Not even dead would I apologize, he snaps. Bella discreetly spills a glowing liquid. She bumps him, thinking she offered redemption. The bump ensured the shimmering liquid hit his foot unnoticed. Back to the conversation with Samuel. The extra request: make someone fall downstairs, unharmed. Samuel found it odd, mild. Bella feels uneasy causing suffering, but Derek deserves punishment. Samuel, smiling, gives her a vial with glowing blue liquid. Back in the present, Bella goes to her room, thinking the sooner she leaves, the better. The next day, Adelart Mansion. Cassian, in his office, receives a report. Count Barn, despite outward care, neglects his daughter. The Countess also mistreats her, sometimes locking her in her room without food. Cassian asks if Isabella has been hit. The assistant says no. Cassian doubts this, wondering about wrist marks. He decides to investigate personally. En route to the Count's estate, Cassian ponders his questions. If she's neglected, what should he do? Stunned by his uncharacteristic indecision, he proceeds. A servant at Barn Mansion stops Duke Cassian. Lady Barnine isn't feeling well today. Perhaps you should return. Despite the butler's insistence, Cassian saw Isabella yesterday. She couldn't be that ill. He persists, refusing to leave, demanding to see her now. Meanwhile, in her room, Bella examines her bruised cheek in the mirror, seemingly content. Earlier, a maid informed her young master Derek had slipped and fallen downstairs.